Donald Trump just hit with a subpoena, and we have it. So the nation is now seeing very literally the written roadmap, according to the January 6th committee, to Donald Trump's coup culpability for the first time. This is the formal letter, summons, and subpoena from the House January 6th committee. And this new legally binding document cites evidence to show why Trump must, they say, legally cooperate, setting deadlines for evidence, November 4th, deadlines for testifying, November 14th. And this new material puts Trump at the center of the coup plot to overturn the election. The committee writing that he maliciously disseminated false allegations of voter fraud, corrupted the Justice Department, ran the effort to transmit false electoral certificates that may yet yield more indictments. It's basically saying he committed crimes, and pressured Pence to help the coup, even though, according to the committee, Trump knew at the time in advance that the Pence plot was illegal. And then, of course, summoning supporters who Trump knew were armed, according to the committee's investigation, to that D.C. rally and the storming of the Capitol. Now, what happens if you defy a subpoena like this? Well, Trump aide Steve Bannon found out today. It's a coincidence in timing, but there's a lot going on, and sometimes things happen unrelated on the same day for what seemed like a related theme. Mr. Bannon sentenced to prison. We have more details on that story later tonight, because it's just not our top story yet. While in another subpoena clash, Senator Lindsey Graham lost again. He's been ordered to testify in Georgia. Also news. He's now trying to get an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court, which recently rejected Trump's appeal in the classified document case. You take it all together, and what you have is a lot of people involved in trying to violently overthrow the government or otherwise steal the election who are doing everything they can to avoid telling the truth. Mr. Bannon taking a prison sentence for it. Mr. Graham going all the way to the Supreme Court rather than just say the truth about what the heck he was up to in Georgia. And Mr. Trump, who is now a citizen of this country, bound by the laws of this country, well, weighing what to do about a new subpoena out tonight. We turn to two experts on this. Maya Wiley is president of the Leadership Conference of Human and Civil Rights, a former New York City mayoral candidate and civil prosecutor, and Nick Ackerman, a former Watergate prosecutor with extensive experience in exactly these kind of intergovernmental clashes and investigations. Welcome to both of you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Nick, I mention all of that to say that there's a world where you're accused of, say, being involved with a coup or hanging out with the militia, and you go in and you say, hey, let me not slow this down. Let me tell you why I don't support militias overthrowing the government, and I didn't want to be involved in the coup, and if my name was brought up, etc. Senator Graham's not doing that. Steve Bannon's not doing that. And now the new subpoena tonight. So with that context, what do you see here in this subpoena and accompanying material?
Oh, and I see it's almost like written as an indictment, this letter. I mean, it is the outline for an indictment of Donald Trump. I mean, it's basically you did this, this, and this. You killed your brother. You killed your son. You robbed a bank. And, oh, by the way, will you come in and talk to us? And if you're going to take the Fifth Amendment, meaning that truthful answers to any questions that we ask of you would tend to incriminate you, we want to know in advance. So it really lays it out. I mean, this puts together in a very succinct a letter with 3 pages, everything that the January 6th committee has come up with. And if you take it as a whole, I mean, you've got Donald Trump, who's going to try and protect himself. You got Lindsey Graham, who is a key piece in the evidence, the evidentiary chain between his conversation with Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, and Donald Trump's effort to try and get Raffensperger to find votes to get him elected in Georgia. And you put all those together, and you've got people, and Steve Bannon, I mean, what you've got here is a masterful cover-up. What they're trying to do is hide the ball. Donald Trump is not going to cooperate. He's not going to testify. Anything he says will be used against him, and he'll wind up having a perjury charge tossed upon all the other charges that he's facing at this point. So I don't see him cooperating. The question is, how aggressive is the committee going to get? They're not going to go to court and try and enforce that subpoena because it's going to run out the clock. I mean, it looks like now that the Republicans are more likely than not to take the majority in Congress. It may not happen, but most likely. And if that happens, the committee is disbanded, and any kind of effort in court would be immediately nullified. So they really have a choice. they either try and force him in through publicity, or they get the sergeant at arms out there, bring him in, sit him down at the table, and start asking him questions.
Maya?
Well, I think Nick is absolutely right about what this document is, but what it reflects, which is also a conversation to the American public, reminding the American public of all that they've found. It's also a message, I think, to prosecutors, whether it's the Department of Justice or the Georgia grand jury in Fulton County. And the point is, there's a lot of investigation, criminal investigation going on right now. And Donald Trump is in the middle of the action, as the evidence has found in the January 6th committee hearings. And just to put just a couple of the many things they said, for example, he knew, Donald Trump knew, he lost the election. Yeah. There is evidence in the public eye from the January 6th committee. We also just heard it now from a judge out of California that said, John Eastman, no, crime, fraud, exception, meaning we think you as a lawyer were involved in a criminal conspiracy, and that's why we're not going to protect any of these documents from the January 6th committee. One last point, even as we think about the fake electors, which is its own separate, set of counts, is Donald Trump, once again, directly in the middle of that. And it is John Eastman that helps put him directly in the middle of it, participating, knowing, being told by John Eastman saying, you can't do this, it is not legal, in front of Donald Trump. So what we have here is essentially a document that says to the American public, we may not be able to do anything about this as the January 6th committee in terms of criminal prosecution, but we're going to make sure everyone knows that if it wasn't Donald Trump, there would be a grand jury process right now. Yeah.
And when you describe it that way, roadmap, draft indictment, summary, a real indictment is going to have more detail, more flesh on it. That goes to some of what is previewed that we didn't know until tonight that the committee's looking at it this way. They want communications with certain people. So they're naming names: Stone, Flynn, a Republican leader in Arizona, Kelly Ward, the lawyers that one of them you just mentioned, Maya, John Eastman, Jeff Clark, who was at DOJ, and the people who pleaded the Fifth are cited for the obvious implication, according to the committee, that maybe they have something to hide. Eastman was writing the coup memos. Clark was at one point going to take over as attorney general so they could try to shake down states to overturn the election. So we're looking at people here under close scrutiny. Eastman famously had his phone seized, meaning whatever's on that phone that pertains to Trump is still being litigated, as Maya mentioned. But that's exactly the kind of material that they want to go end to end on. And I bring it back to the panel. They want to find out, Nick, what Trump may have had from Eastman, and they mentioned encrypted communications and other things where people may be trying to hide their tracks.
Right. I mean, that's exactly what they're looking for. Are they going to get it? I don't think so. But they did get, Maya just mentioned before this email out of California from the judge, from Eastman, where basically Eastman says that he doesn't want Trump signing a court document under oath listing off all of these things that he was saying about Georgia, about dead people voting and fraudulent voting.
These things were lies.
They were all lies. Yeah. But what I think is really important here is that document is admissible in a criminal prosecution against Donald Trump because it comes from his own attorney. By claiming attorney-client privilege, Eastman is putting himself out as Donald Trump's agent, and the law is pretty clear here that if your attorney is making statements and they are admissions, they can be used against you in a court of law. Yeah. And that really cooks Donald Trump's goose.
And then I want to turn again, because we're kind of going through the stuff. So if you watched at home, you got the phone alert. OK, he got subpoenaed. I heard about that in the committee hearing. No, we have a lot more detail. And so I want to bring another piece of it for your analysis, Maya. On the screen right now, we talk about the coup plot. That's the headline that's targeting the coup plot. We use the word coup deliberately because it has a meaning, and it would appear that there were plots and efforts to stage a coup. I want to bring us to what is in the new subpoena material. It says Trump's the first and only president to ever lead an effort to overturn the election with the bloody attack on the Capitol, and it tries to put him under oath about accusations like this.
I overheard the president say something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in.
We're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol because you'll never take back our country with weakness.
The "I'll be there with you" is not a lie. It was Donald Trump's apparent intent. He tried to act on it. We're also learning about how the committee is using this subpoena to try to get more information about a separate, aborted effort to get the military to overturn the election. This was the December 18th meeting where Trump's own lawyers later recalled the meltdown. So what you see on your screen is brand new. They want to go into, we can put that back up. They want to go into December 18th. That's not just one more date. That is all records relating to what we heard about, the discussion of a full-blown coup.
What they were proposing, I thought was nuts. Flynn screamed at me that I was a quitter and everything, kept on standing up and turning around and screaming at me.
So you know what an insurrection is under the criminal code? It's violent efforts to do essentially what we saw on January 6th. This it goes directly to the point about not just Donald Trump's direct involvement, but direct involvement in using every avenue of force in the form of folks, including extremists like the Oath Keepers, the Proud White Supremacists, Proud Boys, Gateway, organized, pushing him on the Insurrection Act, right, to impose martial law, but the willingness to try to use the levers of government like the military in a way that is fundamental to our Constitution. Fundamental, it says military can't get involved in domestic issues, let alone use its power against the people to stop a lawful transfer of power.
Right.
Tanks in the streets.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber. Thanks for watching The Beat. I wanted to let you know I'm writing a foreword to the January 6th committee's full report, which is coming out soon from HarperCollins. You can go pre-order the book right now, and it'll come to you first when the report comes out in the fall or whenever the government releases it. Just search Melber Jan 6 on Amazon or your favorite independent book site and click pre-order. You'll be the first to get both the report and my new piece on the coup conspiracy. You can also go to melberbook.com and order it there.